You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello and welcome to Maryland Politics. I'm your host, Beth Lawson. Tonight we have Berney Flowers in the studio. Berney's running in the Republican primary for Maryland's 2nd congressional seat. Berney believes the best days are in front of us, but we need to change the direction of the country before it's too late. He is here to speak on his candidacy for Congress. Berney, I looked at your resume prior to you coming on this evening and noticed it's quite illustrious. Would you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Thank you for your time, and thank you for having me on your program. I have been in government for almost 34 years. I spent almost 21 years on active duty. I retired at Lieutenant Colonel. I deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, South Korea, and even the Ukraine. So I've seen a lot in the military. I've also spent almost 14 years as a civilian working in senior positions in DOD and DHS. Up until about the 14th of January, I had access to pretty much every agency in the United States. So I realized that I could be a better help to our country by running for Congress, so here I am.
Very impressive. Can you please tell our audiences how these roles that you had within the government can prepare you for the job of Congress?
Well, not many people can say they worked at the senior levels of government. I hate to mention the agencies, but most of the work I was doing was classified. And I can tell you that I worked with several three-letter agencies. I got to a point where I realized that, again, I could do more for the country working on the outside than I could doing what I was doing. So I made a change, and I made that change for the American people.
Well, thank you for that. It's appreciated. The country is currently facing security threats due to the Biden administration's failures and their hasty withdrawing from Afghanistan. Putin is making his moves. Where do you see the leadership's failure?
Well, Ronald Reagan once said, peace through strength. Right now, we are not demonstrating strength. To tell you the truth, from my experience, recent experience, being that I was in the senior levels of government back in January and for the past 13 years before that, nobody's afraid of Joe Biden. And it's not that a leader has to be feared, but the issue of the day, he has to be respected, or she. And our enemies, our adversaries out there, we've got Russia, we've got Iran, we've got China. Everybody's looking at the Biden administration as weak, and they have an ability to challenge us now. And that is something that is just unacceptable for the greatest superpower that's ever existed on the planet. We can do better. And I feel that my ability to help, I think that my candidacy and eventually being elected will allow us to do better. So here I am.
I can gather that this weakness is a threat to our security and safety at home. Can you address how you tackle that issue as well?
One of the things that I encountered, and one of the things that made my decision clear, was that there's roughly 3,000 people who come across our southern border literally every day. We don't vet these people. We have neutered our Customs and Border Patrol. And as a matter of fact, we don't know where many of these people are right here in the United States. I have no problem with legal immigration. It's a wonderful thing, and it's how we get a lot of work done and wonderful people, educated people coming from all over the world. However, illegal immigration is something that we as a country cannot tolerate. We absolutely have to protect our borders, and we are not doing a good job of that.
So why do you think that the illegal immigration is an issue, and how do you plan on addressing the huge spike in crime that we're seeing?
Well, the first thing with the illegal immigration, for instance, we just went through COVID. Who's to tell what diseases or whatever the folks are coming through if we don't check them medically through the administration of the immigration system? And we have an immigration system that's set up to handle legal immigration. But when you're bringing people across the border and you're not checking them, they could be bringing any kind of disease into the country. They could be bringing crime, all sorts of things. MS-13 is a factor. We got to do better. And again, our Customs and Border Patrol agents, I am not faulting them. I can say from experience that our president and his administration has basically neutered our Customs and Border Patrol, and we need to do better. And as far as the crime is concerned, well, the first thing we need to do is execute the laws that are already on the books. We don't need to change anything, just empower our law enforcement people to do the job that they're paid to do.
So how do you plan on addressing the sharp increase in the crime that's happening?
Well, it depends on where we are. Are we talking Baltimore, or are we talking nationwide?
The issue is huge all over, but to us here in Maryland, obviously, it's under our roof in Baltimore and the surrounding counties.
Well, again, we have wonderful police officers and law enforcement. I'm a big backer of the blue. Yes, there's a few bad apples, but you're going to find a few bad apples in every organization, every large organization. But I believe they need to be empowered and supported. And I also believe in community policing. Personally, I don't think we value our police officers, and I don't think we work with them as much as we should. There are many organizations community-based organizations that could work with the police officers in Baltimore and the surrounding counties and help them understand the issues that the citizens are dealing with. There's a lot of people, specifically in the black community, that don't trust the police. Well, how about working with the police and allowing them to get to know the citizens a little bit better? I grew up in a small town in North Carolina where the police chief didn't even carry a gun until I was 18 years old. So I'm not saying that would work here in big city Baltimore and the surrounding counties, but the idea is that man got out and walked among the community and got to know people. He knew all the kids in the community. He knew all the families in the community, and if you did something, he knew about it.
The urban community has seen an enormous spike in crime. What do you attribute that to, Berney?
I believe that the breakdown of the inner city family is the worst thing that's happening to Baltimore. And we've got to fix that. We've got to keep our families together. We've got to keep men in the household. And I don't have anything against single families, but two people working together to raise a child is always better than one. And there's an old saying, the best way to stop a bullet is a job. So I believe in that. We need to educate our kids so that they are ready to take on the challenges of the future, get jobs, and contribute to the American society. And right now, the way the system is, the way the school system is not really doing a great job for our kids. We're spending literally $18,000 per student, and 70% of the black boys who graduate can't read. That is unacceptable. There's a federal lawsuit. Mr. Giovanni Patterson and his wife have instituted that, and I support his lawsuit against the city school system. But the bottom line is we got to keep our families together, and if we can keep our families together, we can do a whole lot better towards our kids and have a great reduction in crime, I believe.
Parents are being labeled as domestic terrorists for speaking out against CRT. What rights do parents have in their children's education?
Well, first of all, I do not believe in critical race theory. We, as Americans, need to have a meritocracy. That's what MLK believed in. That's what I believe in. And if we're judging people by the color of their skin, we are wrong. That needs to change. Our government is wrong to interfere in parents' raising of their kids. I mean, if people are doing a good job raising their kids, of course there's always going to be bad apples and anomalies. But the issue of the day is many school boards have become extreme leftists, and some of them are actually Marxists. You should see some of the literature, literal pornography that I've seen in libraries across this region, and we have to stop it. I would hope that some people will get involved with the school board. I actually thought about running for that. But the issue of the day is parents have the first right and responsibility to raise their children as they see fit, and anybody who stands in the way of that needs to be fought and defeated.
Great points. If a school regularly and repeatedly demonstrates failure, would you support or put in legislation to support school choice? Should the money follow the child?
The money should follow the child. I'm a big fan of school choice. And the issue of the day is, again, I use Baltimore as an example, $18,000 per kid. Give that money to the parents and let them pick the school that the child goes to. Competition is a wonderful thing. Life is a matter of compete or die. And so some of these schools need to be replaced, or at least the people that run them need to be replaced.
Individual choices are being taken away, especially during this COVID pandemic. Bills are introduced to force vaccine mandates, passports, including masking. Local and state governments are shutting down small businesses. Do you think these actions are constitutional and helping our economy and government?
No, I think they are unconstitutional, and they are not helping our economy and government. One of the factors that I thought about when I was leaving the federal government was because I had to take a COVID test every week. Every time I went into the Pentagon, before I went there, I had to take a COVID test, and I did not like it. And that factored into my decision to retire from the federal government. But the issue of the day is that I believe in freedom of choice for individuals. When the COVID started back in 2020, we didn't know a lot, but the science has changed. Well, the bottom line is we know a lot more than we knew then. And healthy young people should not have been forced to take this vaccine. I think it's a matter of choice. A lot of people actually did not get COVID. A lot of people have not taken the shot. If people want to take the shot, I applaud them. But if they don't want to, and that's something that should be an individual choice. And we all know now that COVID is survivable. A lot of people have had COVID, and if you're below the age of 60, you've got something like a 98% chance of surviving. So for the government to force this mandatory shot upon people and basically shut down our economy was absolutely unacceptable, and I do not agree with it.
As a U.S. Congressman, what would you do to protect our civil liberties, freedom?
The first thing that I would do is get a handle on social media. The media companies, CNN, MSNBC, and now Facebook, they're basically acting as the arbiters of society. If they don't like what you say, they will shut you down. And they're operating on government airways that we own. It's got to stop. So I believe that the first thing we need to do is get a handle on these giant tech companies that are controlling our social media and controlling what we see, what we hear, and what we talk about. So we can do better right there. That's a start.
So do you think controlling that will help the manufacturing in our country?
Don't get me started. I am not a fan of globalization. I was over in Dundalk the other day, and there's a whole lot of manufacturing capacity over there that is not being used. If you notice, the small businesses are basically going away. You drive through the local areas, but the big box stores are growing because they're introducing products from China, and everything we buy is from somewhere else. Well, we cannot sustain a society by not making anything. So globalization started roughly 30 years ago with Joe Biden and Bill Clinton and his wife, and it's not been a good thing for us. We don't make much in this country anymore, and if we're going to be a successful society, we have to keep people working, we have to keep people paying taxes, and we have to be self-sufficient. And speaking of self-sufficient, have you noticed that we're paying $5 a gallon for gas, but we've literally got a 500-year supply of oil in this country. Why are we not self-sufficient in oil and gas like we were during the last administration?
Very good point. It's not fun to fill up the tank nowadays, is it?
Not at all.
What proposals can you make to bring manufacturing back here to Maryland, to the U.S., and give me some examples?
I would like to offer higher tariffs for goods that are made outside the United States. We have the capacity in this country to make everything that we need. We bring a lot of things in to this country in order to make things cheaper, but sometimes you go too far with that. Capitalism is a wonderful thing, but it can go too far. And I think that we've taken it too far. We need to get back to the business of making our own goods and services, and anybody who's bringing something into this country should not be able to bring it in tax-free.
So do you think we should offer tax incentives to manufacturers that are here in the U.S. manufacturing products?
I support that wholeheartedly, and if I was in charge, I would ensure, or at least try to ensure as a congressman, that we put Made in America, a Made in America symbol on everything made in this country, and encourage people to buy American.
Berney, in closing, why should people vote for you?
Beth, in 1987, I took an oath, and that oath said that I will defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath is still valid. I have a lot more that I can give to this country. I love this country, and with your vote, we can make a change to make things better. So thank you.
Very welcome. Will you please tell our audience where we can find you?
You can email me at info@berneyflowers.com. You can look at my website at berneyflowers.com. And you can find me on Facebook at Berney Flowers for Congress.
Thank you for watching Maryland Politics. Please like and subscribe to TV Free Baltimore. I'm your host, Beth Lawson. Stay well and please tune in for our next show.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.